Hello, my name is Ram Banerjee. I'm from Transaxium, which is a UK company that specializes in digital cash. And I wanted to talk today about cashless vending because it's increasingly, as we see it, an important area for our potential customers. So, cashless vending. So why would we want cashless vending? Well, because notes and coins are extremely difficult for vending machines. Everybody's looking to increase the amount of take that they can take on a vending machine and to minimize jams and so forth, and the sheer expense of handling notes and coins. So cashless vending, typically when people look at it, the immediate solution is debit and credit cards, because that is the industry standard way of performing a payment that doesn't require physical money. So everybody looks at this area, and there's obviously advantages. Lots of people carry bank cards and they know how to use them and so forth, but there are problems as well. So the problems are something that I wanted to just look at, and this is specifically for debit and credit cards. So, and to me, they fall into really four areas that are worth considering. So, one is that they have associated with them high fees. Especially in a vending environment, you could be looking at 3, 4, 5%, perhaps even much higher, in order to handle credit cards. The second one is that every transaction involving a credit and debit card actually doesn't transfer value. What it transfers is data, and specifically ID data, because you transmit your account number, your authorization that you are actually the authentication that you're the user of that card, and then authorization for the actual transfer of value. So it's all a data transfer. The money actually moves from your credit card account to the merchant account at a much later time. As a result of all of this ID data, tremendous requirement to keep this secure and safe. And we hear every day about data breaches because this leads to ID theft. And that's why there are some grand rules around ID data, the PCI compliance and so forth. Huge area. You have to approve the merchants, make sure that they're not doing incorrect things with the data set. The third one is that most of these systems are actually online. So, and without a network connection, you simply can't operate them. There may be some transactions you can do offline, but you need to go online pretty quickly. The fourth area that I find about them is the fact that they're not really universal. So you might imagine they're limited to people with debit and credit cards. Maybe a large number here in the developed Western world, but still, even here, the percentage of people without cards are over 40% of the population. And if you go to the developing nations, it may be 90% plus of the population. So it's not really universal. So, and trying to look at keeping vending cashless, yet at the same time trying to overcome some of these problems, is what we've been looking at with digital cash. So let's see if we can find some solutions using digital cash. And digital cash means, just like physical cash, you carry it with you. It's not on the web, it's not a server-based value. You carry it with you. And so the first thing about it is that digital cash is your own system. It doesn't belong to the card issuer because you are the issuer of the currency. Visa, MasterCard does not get a stake. There's no acquirer set up external to yourself. So they have low fees. And therefore, you can look at this and you can sell these systems to potential vending customers and figure out how that fee structure is divided. You have the discretion to provide some of that fee back to the vending organization and retain some of it yourself. So it leads to higher income. The second one is that there's no ID data in the transaction. This is because all you transfer is value. If I paid you with $10 by cash, you don't need to know who I am. You just have the value immediately transferred. And that's what stored value systems do. They just transfer the value, not the data associated with the account holder. As a result, there is no ID theft because you don't have the ID data. The third one is that with digital cash systems, it's entirely done locally. So it's possible to create an entire offline digital cash system. Any offline system can go online, but you're able to perform a transaction and complete it. If your vending machine doesn't have connection or the connection at the moment temporarily is suspended, it can still operate and take money. And stored value cards like cash can be provided to everyone. It can be provided to children, the unbanked, and therefore it really is universal. So, if digital cash is a potential solution, I'm not saying it's instead of debit credit. I'm saying it's as well as debit credit to try and capture a much larger slice of the market. How would we do it? How would one do it? Well, what we've developed at Transaxium is effectively a way of taking value from a card and transferring it to the merchant. So here's the merchant. And here is the user. And in our case, the user has a card. For instance, card, contactless, secure element that holds the value. And we provide merchant terminals in the form of phones. And you can say, well, everybody does this, don't they? Yes, they do. This is the way, for instance, a transport card would pay for a bus ride or something like this. What we have done, and that's very unique, is that although the user has a secure device to hold the unspent funds, the merchant does not require a SAM, a security module within the merchant device. And as a result, the merchant device is a software-only device. That's why we can turn a standard NFC phone into a little merchant terminal. You put £1, you hit enter, you hold card, and the transaction is complete. And it makes for very simple terminals. What we've also built is the third part of the system, as you might expect, which is the host, the cloud-based host, which is the issuer host, the person who organizes the money system. And what happens is that the issuer takes money from the bank account of the user. So this is the bank of the user. And value is downloaded into the user device. The user spends with the merchant, and the merchant redeems. And then there's a settlement process where the merchant bank, this is the bank of the merchant, gets the money. We build that system in its entirety. We have a way of, for instance, loading value from a bank account, holding the value here while the electronic value is sent to the card, and then these transactions happen with the NFC terminals, as just said. We've just integrated Barclays into this system, so we can take Barclays money out of a Barclays account and update the value on a user's device. Now, in a vending environment, we effectively would see that this merchant device here, rather than being an NFC terminal, would effectively be some sort of reader within a vending machine. This is a vending machine. And there's a reader there. And the reader typically would have at least a couple of types of interfaces. One would be NFC, and you might expect that the card might work with an NFC interface. Another type of interface might be low energy Bluetooth. And you could expect that to work with a phone. Bluetooth is best for phones because although you could use NFC, and Android devices would be able to do that, iOS devices, i.e. Apple, haven't opened up their NFC interface at the moment to third-party applications. So Bluetooth would be the best way of connecting to that. Where would the money be held on the phone? There are two possibilities really. One is we could take that user application that we have on a smart card, and this is a dedicated smart card, but we also have it in the form of a Java applet, so we can place it inside the SIM or the secure element within the phone. So if there was a secure element within the phone, then the payer application can actually go there. The alternative would be to connect this thing, the phone, to the issuer and hold the value, cash value, at the issuer. So the issuer, if you like, has a series of buckets of money belonging to users. So it might have a series of user accounts values sitting there, and the phone just accesses its own value and is able to transfer that value to the device, and the payment is made. It can be made offline using the card, offline using the secure element within the phone, and online if the value is actually held at the issuer. But it's always with digital cash. It's prepaid money. The payment is complete. There is no chargeback. The entire system is controlled by you. There are no other fees associated with this system. So, what are the benefits? Well, number of benefits really. First of all, it's not that difficult to do. If we had a card system here, so if there was a card here, for example, then the card's already done, the issue is already done. What you have to take is the merchant terminal code that's in the Android device and place it inside the device. Create a new library so that the device within the vending machine actually has the capability of taking payment. If you had to add a phone, then you need an applet on here to be able to access the value before the BLE transfer. Everything else remains the same. So the benefits of something like this, really the first of all, are the fees. They're low. And you can distribute those fees and generate revenue. And it's all about revenue generation. Revenue generation from the fact that you're not having to pay third parties money. Revenue generation in terms of the data and how you might be able to utilize that. Because once you own the payment system, you also own every user, every merchant, every transaction. And that data is only available to you as the issuer. It's a secure system against ID theft. It's an offline system. It's universal. You can now start to see, because you now own the end users, you have a true brand experience. Your customers already knew you within the vending machine environment, but now the users of the machine know you, And the first time you're starting to create a brand, and that brand has value, especially if you wish to sell your organization at a later time. Because that's all based on how many users do you know, active users do you know in your system. So brand becomes extremely important. Another very important area is really interoperability. Interoperability. Apologies for that. That means that if you were to build a system for a particular large vending machine organization, you could repeat the system for other vending machine operators, and they could have a business relationship of being able to accept one another's value. So you may have something in one town, and suddenly users of another town can start using the same card to pay for transactions. You can keep them separate, and you can start to generate a revenue model from that. Indeed, it's possible to actually generate money through foreign exchange, because some of these machines may be in different countries. So all in all, there are a number of benefits to offering digital cash as well as in credit debit. And finally, and this is really quite important, you having this device being able to take a low value transaction that doesn't get processed individually, that doesn't require to be online, means that you can take your device into all sorts of new markets. Anywhere where you might be selling small value goods repeatedly, a photocopier, a transit ticketing system, a road tolling system. Suddenly, your market starts to expand because you are the provider of the digital currency, and what you've added is a completely new business, a payment business, to the vending reader business that you already have, to consolidate it as a complete system. I think that it's worthwhile looking at, and if you're interested, please contact us. Thanks for listening.